My coffee had been sitting so long, it was the exact temperature of regret. Lukewarm. Bitter. Technically still there. I was on my couch in my new apartment, the one with the quiet hallway and the neighbors who never made eye contact in the elevator. The kind of place you rent when you're trying to become a person again. My phone buzzed, and that familiar iMessage sound cut through the silence like a dropped spoon in a church. You were added to bride's side. For a second, my thumb didn't move. My brain did that thing where it tries to protect you by buffering. Like, maybe it's not what you think. Maybe it's the wrong chat. Maybe it's a spam group about patio furniture. Then the preview line appeared under it. And it had my name in it. I hadn't been in that chat for weeks. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew that. There are some doors you don't touch, even if they're already cracked open. But my hand moved anyway, like it belonged to someone else. The chat loaded, and the first full message I saw was from a number labeled Diane Mom. Okay, if Claire reaches out, we keep it classy. No back and forth, just the line we agreed on. A few reactions popped under it. A heart. A thumbs up. A little laughing face from someone whose contact photo was a cropped wedding invitation. My chest did this tight, quiet thing, not panic, not tears, more like insulted oxygen. And my coffee, like it wanted to participate, tasted even worse when I took a sip. I stared at the screen until the letters stopped looking like letters and started looking like a decision. Then I saw the pinned message. Let me back up. A week earlier, I'd been doing my best impression of a woman with a stable storyline. I went to work, I answered emails, I used my project manager voice in meetings like nothing had happened. In my new Raleigh area apartment, I unpacked in slow, polite bursts, 1 box a night, like grief had a daily limit. I kept making coffee and forgetting to drink it. That was my new motif, apparently. Cold coffee and delayed reactions. The wedding had ended in the way people prefer to describe with soft language. Postponed. Called off. They decided to take time. No one said the real sentence out loud. I left. And when you leave a situation that was supposed to be perfect, people don't just wonder what happened. They invent what happened, then exchange their version like it's a casserole. I wasn't on social media much. I'd muted a lot. I'd blocked a few. I was trying to heal quietly. Quiet doesn't mean nobody's talking. Jess met me for brunch in Cary at a place with exposed brick and a menu that charged extra for house-made ketchup. She was my friend from before Ethan, before the engagement party. Jess slid into the booth and did that careful smile people do when they're trying not to look like they've been reading about you. "How's the new place?" she asked. "It's, aggressively beige," I said. Very committed to being a blank slate. She laughed, but it was a short laugh. The kind that stops itself. Jess had always been the bridge. The peacemaker. The one who could sit with my friends and Ethan's friends and somehow make everyone feel like they'd been chosen. That also meant she heard things first. She stared at her iced coffee like it had a tiny confession at the bottom. "People are still talking," she said carefully. "About the wedding? About why it ended," she corrected. I didn't answer right away. My cup was already turning lukewarm. Ethan had always liked smooth conversations, smooth plans, smooth endings. When the engagement party happened, when that stranger handed me the envelope and disappeared into our own guests like smoke, Ethan's first instinct wasn't concern. It was control. "Let's not make this a thing," he'd said, smiling too hard. Later, after I couldn't unsee what was in that envelope, he'd tried to reframe it as drama that happened to us, as if the facts were optional. And somewhere in the weeks after, there'd been the vendor mess. A final payment email that hit my inbox even though I hadn't authorized anything. Not my card, not my signature, just my name, attached like a convenient label. It wasn't the same story as before. It was just another paper cut. Another little proof that things could be arranged around me without me. I thought leaving would end the arranging. I didn't realize leaving gave them more room. After the breakup, I noticed the social rules immediately. People didn't ask direct questions. They asked weather questions. How are you holding up? Are you eating? Have you been sleeping? Translation, are you going to be embarrassing? And I played along because I was tired and because I didn't want my pain to become entertainment. The one rule I didn't say out loud was this. I wasn't going to read what they were saying about me. I wasn't going to go hunting for it. I wasn't going to become a person who refreshes her own humiliation like it's breaking news. Jess texted sometimes. Ethan texted once about logistics. Diane, my ex-future mother-in-law, sent a single message that was basically a condolence card written by a PR team. Wishing you peace during this transition. I remember showing it to my therapist and laughing once, softly like a cough. Still, I stayed away from the group chat universe until the universe pushed me back in. The day I got added back, it wasn't a dramatic day. That's what made it worse. I'd worked late. I'd eaten leftover pasta standing up. I'd microwaved coffee I didn't even like anymore because it felt like a normal person thing to do. Then the notification hit. Ava added you to the group. Ava, a name that rang a faint bell. One, out of the friend of a friend women, the kind who always had her nails done and her calendar color-coded. My first thought was that it was a mistake. My second thought was, you're going to see something you can't unsee. I stared at the banner until it faded, then I opened the chat anyway, because I needed to know what version of me was currently being circulated like an appetizer platter. The first thing I did was tap the top of the screen. Group info, like I was checking a guest list for a party I'd already been escorted out of. There it was, the title, the little champagne emoji, and a list of names that made my stomach do a slow roll. Jess, Ethan, Diane, a couple of bridesmaids, someone labeled planner, and then a contact literally saved as family updates, which told me everything I needed to know about how Diane saw the world. Under the participant list, I saw something else, a line that said, pinned message. My thumb hovered. I'd been a project manager long enough to recognize the energy. Pinned messages were for marching orders. I tapped it anyway. The pinned message opened like a tiny corporate memo dressed up as friendship. It was from Diane. Of course it was. Hi, ladies. Quick note so we're all aligned. And then, in neat little bullets, we're focusing on healing and privacy. Please don't share details. If asked directly, I'd say, it was a mutual decision and we wish her well. Do not engage if Claire reaches out. Redirect to Ethan. Underneath, little reactions stacked like silent votes. Hearts. Thumbs up. Someone replied, so sad, but yes. Keeping it classy. Diane responded with a single, exactly. I stared at the do not engage if Claire reaches out line like it was a sign taped to a door. Like I was a solicitor. Like I was a flood they were sandbagging against. I took a sip of coffee. It tasted like it had been reheated twice, which was accurate. Then I scrolled up. The messages weren't dramatic. That was the point. They were casual, polite, weaponized. I just want peace for Ethan, someone wrote. She's been going through a lot, another added, like I was, a storm system. Diane replied, we all tried. Some people don't want help. Ethan wrote, let's not blame anyone. I don't want it to get messy. Diane, agreed. We protect you. I felt my face go hot, but my body stayed still. That's always been my thing. I process internally like a slow computer. Then Jess typed, please don't pile on. Claire's not a villain. It was one line. It was the bare minimum. But seeing it made my throat tighten anyway. Diane reacted with a thumbs up to Jess's message, which felt like someone patting your head after you speak. The next message had my name in all caps. A bridesmaid I barely knew wrote, is it true she didn't pay the final payment? That's what my mom heard. My stomach dropped in a very specific way. Like the moment, you realize your credit card is missing, Diane replied almost instantly. There were vendor issues. We won't go into details, but yes, there was confusion. Ethan handled it. Ethan wrote, "Please don't spread that. It's complicated." Diane responded, "It's okay, honey. People are going to ask. We need a consistent answer." And then, like she was assigning tasks, she added, "If Claire contacts anyone about the payment, do not respond. Send her to Ethan." The email attachment preview was blurred, but I could still make out the subject line shape, the way my name sat in it like a placeholder. They weren't just protecting Ethan. They were building a version of me that made them look clean. I kept scrolling, even though it felt wrong. Someone dropped a photo into the chat. It was from the engagement party. Not a romantic one. Not one of the couple's shots. It was a candid from the moment everything shifted. The moment that stranger handed me the envelope. The picture didn't show my face. It showed my hand, the envelope, my engagement ring catching the light, and the edge of a floral centerpiece. The caption underneath said, "When things got weird." Diane reacted with a heart. Someone else reacted with the laughing face. And then a message popped in that made my chest go hollow. Honestly, that was her turning point. She spiraled after that. Spiraled, like I was a loose thread. Like the envelope was an excuse for me to become inconvenient. My coffee sat there, fully cold now, like it had finally committed on being what it was. I put the cup down carefully, as if noise would make this more real. Then I noticed the timestamps. The next morning, I told myself I was done. I told myself I'd seen enough. Then I drove to Target because my brain needed a normal errand to cling to, like a raft. I bought paper towels and dish soap because apparently I was rebuilding a life one practical item at a time. And then, in the parking lot, I sat in my car and opened the chat again. It felt like returning to a scene. The cold coffee was in my cup holder. I took a sip and immediately regretted it, which had become a theme too. I scrolled slowly, like I was reading minutes from a meeting I didn't attend. That's when I saw something that didn't match the story they were telling. I'd unended it on a Saturday night. I remembered the time because I'm the kind of person who remembers times when things matter. 8:42 p.m. I'd stood in our kitchen, hands shaking, and said, "I can't do this." The chat, though, had a date separator for that same day. Saturday, 4:03 p.m. A message from Diane. "Okay, team, tonight we keep things calm. If Claire acts out, we do not engage. Jess, stay close to her." Another person. What if she brings up the envelope again? Diane. "We stay neutral. We say we're worried about her. No details." Ethan. "Let's just get through the party." Someone reacted with a thumbs up to Diane's "stay close to her" line. 4 hours before I'd said a word about leaving, they were already planning for me to act out. That wasn't memory. That was coordination. My hands went numb on the steering wheel. I kept scrolling. A bridesmaid wrote, "What do we say if she asks about the deposits?" Diane replied, "We say Ethan handled it. That's it. No debate." Another, "If she asks why she was removed from the chat?" Diane, "We tell her it was for her own peace. We don't want her spiraling." Someone sent. Diane reacted with a heart. The whole thing was wrapped in concern like gift paper. And I realized what hurt the most wasn't that they disliked me. It was that they were using politeness as a weapon. They weren't calling me names. They were calling me unstable. They were building a narrative where any objection I made would be proof of the narrative. It was the social version of de-quicksand. Then one message didn't fit the tone at all. Buried between Diane's hearts and keep it classy speeches, there was a message from Ava, the same Ava who'd apparently added me back. "I'm uncomfortable with this," she wrote. No emoji, no softening. She didn't do anything to me. We're scripting people's responses like she's a threat. The chat went quiet for a beat. Then Diane replied, "Ava, I hear you, but you don't know everything. We're protecting Ethan." Ethan reacted with a thumbs up to Diane's message. Not a reply, not stop, just a thumbs up. Ava wrote, "Okay." That was it. A single okay that felt like someone swallowing something sharp. My throat tightened. Not because Ava was my savior, because even the kind person got folded. I'm into the machine. And then I saw why Ava had added me back. In group chats, people think the truth lives in the messages. It doesn't. It lives in the reactions. Who hearted what? Who laughed? Who stayed silent? Under Diane's "do not engage," there were 5 thumbs ups. Under Jess's "Claire's not a villain," there were no reactions. Under the envelope photo, there were 2 laughing faces and 1 heart. It was like watching a room full of adults clap at the wrong time. And then I saw the system message I'd missed. Ava changed the group photo. She'd been editing the chat settings, probably trying to update something, maybe create a new version of the group for whatever Diane was planning next. That's how iMessage does it sometimes. You change something. Your phone suggests old members, and 1 wrong tap brings a ghost back into the room. I wasn't a person to them in that moment. I was a risk, and I had been accidentally invited to my own reputation meeting. I knew I had to talk to Jess. I didn't want to drag Jess into it, but Jess had been in that chat watching, and she'd been assigned, in Diane's words, to stay close to me. So I drove over, coffees in hand, like I was bringing peace offerings to a hostage negotiation. Jess opened the door and her face fell immediately. "Claire, what's wrong?" I held out the coffee. "This one's for you. Mine's already cold, because of course it is." She gave a small, confused laugh. Then she saw my phone in my other hand. "Did Diane?" "I got added back," I said, bar accidentally, I think. Jess's shoulders dropped, like she'd been carrying something heavy and just lost her grip. She stepped back and let me in without arguing. That silence told me more than any words could. Jess knew there was more than one chat. Jess sat on her couch like she was about to confess to a minor crime. "I didn't start it," she said quickly. "I didn't ask to be in it. Diane added me because she said I was good for keeping things calm." "Jess," I said, "I don't care who started it. I care about what's in it." I opened the chat and scrolled to the part that had been burning a hole in my brain. Ethan's message. Jess leaned in, and I watched her read it. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. The message said, "As long as Claire thinks it was her, a choice. It stays clean. No mess. No questions." Jess whispered, "Oh my God." That was the moment the story shifted. Not because I suddenly learned Ethan could be strategic. I already knew he liked smooth, but because it proved something specific. They weren't reacting to my leaving. They were planning for it. "There's another group," Jess said. My stomach sank. "A smaller one," she added quickly. "Just Diane, Ethan, the planner, and a couple of his cousins. I was in it for like a day. Then Diane said it was too stressful for me and removed me." Removed. Like you delete a file. "What was it called?" I asked. Jess swallowed. "It was called damage control." The words hung in the air like smoke. I opened my notes app and typed it because I needed something solid to hold on to. Damage control. I felt oddly calm, like my nervous system had finally stopped guessing and started documenting. "Jess," I said, "did Diane ever ask you to say anything specific?" Jess nodded, eyes glossy. "She told me to tell people you were overwhelmed and that we should give you grace." Grace. The word people use when they don't want to use truth. I realized my next move had to be careful. I had a rule about not screenshotting people. Not because I'm morally superior, but because I didn't want to become someone who collects evidence like trophies. But this wasn't gossip. This was my name being used like a tool. So I took a screenshot of the timestamps. I took one of the pinned message. I took one of Ethan's stays clean, a line not to post, not to punish, to protect myself from the inevitable rewriting that would happen the second I confronted them. Jess watched me do it and didn't say a word. Then she whispered, "What are you going to do?" I stared at my cold coffee and thought about how, for weeks, I'd been trying to be the bigger person. Bigger people still deserve truth. "I'm going to talk to Ethan," I said, "and then I'm going to end this story properly." I just didn't know the story had one more twist waiting. Ethan agreed to meet the next day at a coffee shop in Apex, one of those places that pretends it isn't a chain because the chalkboard sign says, "Welcome, friend." He showed up looking like he'd stepped out of a "Getting My Life Together" commercial. Clean jacket, calm, the smile. "Hey," he said, like we were catching up after a normal breakup. "Hey," I replied, because I'm polite even when I'm furious. He ordered a latte. I ordered drip coffee and didn't drink it. "Jess told me you've been having a hard time," he said gently. I blinked once. "Interesting, because your mother told people I was spiraling, so at least you're all consistent." His smile faltered. "Claire," he sighed, "I don't want this to turn into a thing." "It already is," I said. "I just got accidentally invited." He frowned. "Invited to what?" I turned my phone over and slid it across the table. His eyes dropped to the screen. The smoothness cracked. Just slightly. He tried to make it my fault in 3 sentences or less. Ethan pushed the phone back, art like it was hot. "You shouldn't be reading that," he said. I stared at him. "I was added. I didn't hack anything. I didn't go looking." He swallowed. "My mom was just trying to protect me. You know how she is." "I do," I said quietly. "That's why I'm here." He leaned back, rubbing his forehead like I'd asked him to do taxes. "Claire." People were confused. You left. They needed context. "Context," I repeated. "Or a script." He opened his mouth, then closed it, and then I said, "There's more." His eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" I pulled up another screenshot, one I'd almost convinced myself I imagined. In the chat, someone had typed, "Good thing the envelope moment gave us cover." Another person replied, "Was the girl confirmed?" Diane answered, "Yes. Don't worry. She won't speak." Ethan's face went pale. "That's not," he started. I held up a hand. Don't do the smooth thing." Because in that moment, everything snapped into place. The envelope. The timing. The way Diane had watched me like a PR crisis instead of a human. That weird moment at the party wasn't just something that happened, it was something they used, something they had prepared for. Ethan finally said the quiet part out loud. Ethan exhaled slowly like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. "My mom didn't hire anyone," he said quickly. Then he corrected himself, softer. "I don't know what she did." "But you knew about it," I said, not a question. He looked down. "We were dealing, and with the vendors," he said. "The final payment?" He nodded once. "There was a problem," he admitted. "My mom thought if people believed you were unstable, then the wedding ending would look like it had to happen. Not like we couldn't handle things." Handle things. There it was. The shame hiding under the polish. Diane didn't want Raleigh's brunch ecosystem thinking her son had financial mess. She wanted a clean narrative, a graceful failure, preferably with me as the unpredictable element. "So you let her," I said. Ethan's voice went defensive but still controlled. "I didn't let her. I just didn't stop her." "Same outcome," I said. He reached for my phone again, as if he could erase what I'd seen by touching it. "What do you want?" he asked. Quieter now. I sipped my coffee. It was cold. Of course it was. I realized I didn't want revenge. I wanted an ending. I want 3 things, I said. Ethan blinked. First, I said, your mother stops using my name in her group chats like it's a brand she owns. He opened his mouth. I kept going. Second, you correct the story with the people it matters to. Not a big announcement, just when it comes up, you tell the truth. That you made choices too. That I didn't spiral because I got handed an envelope. I left because the trust was already broken. Ethan looked like he wanted to negotiate. Third, I said, any financial loose ends that have my name on them get handled without my name being used as cover. He nodded slowly. Okay? I didn't believe him yet, so I did the part that project managers do when meetings get slippery. I documented. That night, I sent one message, short, calm, no drama. Ethan, I was accidentally re-added to the group chat where my name is being discussed. I'm asking once. Stop the narrative scripting. Stop referencing me as the reason for vendor issues. And stop implying I'm unstable. If anyone asks, the truth is simple. The wedding ended because trust did. I'm not available for further conversation outside of logistics. Wishing you well. Then I sent a second message to Jess. Thank you for trying. I'm stepping away. The next day, the group chat went quiet. Not because they suddenly respected me. Because silence is what people do when the script gets ripped. Jess. I texted me that Diane was upset and hurt and didn't mean for me to see anything. Which, honestly, was the most truthful thing Diane had said through a third party. She didn't mean for me to see it. 2 days later, I ran into someone at the grocery store. One of the women from the chat. She didn't mention the wedding. She didn't mention Diane. She just said softly, I'm sorry you got dragged. The curated narrative had cracked. Not in a loud way, in a quiet, social way. In the way people stop repeating a story when they realize it makes them look cruel. That night, a message came in from Ava. I'm sorry, she wrote. I didn't mean to add you, but I'm glad you saw it. You didn't deserve it. I stared at it for a long time. Then I did something small, and symbolic. I poured my cold coffee down the sink. I made a fresh cup. Hot. Simple. Mine. I muted the chat. I deleted it. And for the first time in weeks, my apartment felt like a place I lived, not a place I hid. Because the truth doesn't always explode. Sometimes it just refuses to be edited anymore. If you've ever been rewritten by people who smile while they do it, how did you handle it? Did you confront them? Or did you just walk away?